East and West Learning Connections
East and West Learning Connections
helps people of different cultures break barriers and connect with each other.
Together, let's make learning and connections happen.
Tonight's module is on business planning and strategy. Hopefully, I'll try to be as succinct as possible in terms of giving you some direction as to how and why business planning is important and type of things that you need to do. Because it might be a slightly shorter version tonight, a module tonight. Hopefully we'll have some good time for questions and some conversation should anybody wish to. I will start off by telling you that, and I shared this with Young earlier, I did complete a masterclass in entrepreneurship with a gentleman by the name of Joel Matlin. Some of you may know that name. Joel was formerly the founder and CEO of Frisco Bay, which goes back many years. And Frisco Bay was the largest security for the corporate side, for banks especially. Whenever you went into a bank and you saw, the security in the vaults and things like that, it was always by Frisco Bay. So they were a very large company. They did an IPO and became a public company. And then Joel was involved in a buy sell with his partner, and he sold the company. And then about a year or two later, he opened a company called Alarm Force, which many of you are familiar with. Alarm Force is obviously a business to consumer business, and many of you probably have Alarm Force in your own homes. And Joel sold that company. Joel did the same thing there. He created did an IPO. It became a public company, sold the company, and has since retired. Joel and I decided to do a masterclass in entrepreneurship, which we did over a period of several months. It also is 12 modules. It's more of a motivational and I guess inspirational conversation about entrepreneurship. It's a lot about our stories, what motivated us, how necessary perseverance was to establish perfection in the businesses that we ran. So it's a little bit about his story, my story, and a conversation about how what it took to get to where we got to in business. So I have included in the chat. So if you all, whoever wants to go to the chat, I've included the link to that program. I believe it's 8 or 9 of the modules are up right now. The other 3 will be up in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So it's completely free of charge. It's on YouTube. If anybody wants to listen to that, I think it's called Masterclass Entrepreneurship Nuggets. So there's just a bunch of nuggets in there. There's some similarities to the lectures that we're doing through East and West, but East and West is going to be a little bit more nuts and bolts, and the other one's going to be a little bit more motivational and inspirational. So if you wish to take advantage of that, you're welcome to, and it's completely free of charge. So with that, let's go into our session tonight on why business planning matters. And to start off with, and I was told this at a very, very young age in one of the lectures I attended back when I was in my 20s. And I remember one of the business consultants coming in to speak to us basically said that, if you were planning a trip, even a vacation, and you didn't have a destination, it really wouldn't matter what road you take, because you can take any road because you don't know where you're going. So he then alluded to the fact that having a destination when you're going on vacation is really important, because then you can plan which roads you take, you plan around the weather conditions, you go at the right time of year. So you make a bunch of decisions to make that trip as great as you can based on the destination you're going to and which roads you're going to follow. So business planning is very similar. Business planning provides a very clear direction for your business. It helps you identify risks before they become problems. And that's a really important thing, is you want to take risks, but you want to take well-calculated, educated risks. You don't want to just take random risks and hope for the best. Also, creating a business plan will dramatically improve your chances of getting loans or grants or investment. So it's really important that if you are looking for either it's private equity, if you're looking for venture capitalists, if you're looking for banks, if you're looking for any kind of grants or subsidy from anybody, they're going to want to have a very clearly defined business plan. So it's really important that you have this in place in order to get the loans, grants, or investments. Also, a business plan acts as a measuring tool, right? You can track your progress against your goals. So if you have a step by step, it's just again like taking a trip when you're going on vacation. If you have the destination, you know that if you have to travel 1,500 miles, you know that you go, 500 miles the first day and 500 miles the next day, and you know exactly where you're staying along the way. Well, a business plan is just the same way. It helps you stay focused. It measures exactly how well you're progressing. And after day one, if you're supposed to get to 500 miles, well, if you get there, then you've been successful. If you haven't, you're going to have to work a little harder. The next day, you might have to do 600 miles. So a business plan is really good at helping you track your progress as well. So let's talk a little bit about the key components of a business plan. So a standard Canadian business plan really usually has about 8 to 10 sections, okay? And we'll just go through these fairly quickly and I'll talk about each one. The first, at the very front end, is something we call an executive summary. It's usually one page that explains the business idea, the target market, and why it will succeed. Often in the executive summary, you may want to include a mission statement and a vision statement. And we've talked about this before. A mission statement basically is, why are you doing this business? So anybody who might want to partner with you, anybody who wants to invest with you, anybody who wants to give you a grant, they want to know why you're doing this. And usually in the mission statement, it's not necessarily to make money. It's not necessarily a reason that compels people to want to invest in you. Usually it's for a cause. It's for a purpose. It's because you want to either disrupt or differentiate yourself from what's out there right now. People are doing things a certain way and you found a better way. Maybe it's cheaper, faster, better. And so you are in that plan. Your mission is, I want to change the way that we receive communications, right? So we've always received communication over landline, or we've received communication through a bunch of networks and towers that are cabled together. And someone came up and said, we could probably do this if we put satellites, around the earth. So that's a disruptor. That's all of a sudden saying, all those wires that we have hooked up, we really don't need them. If we have enough satellites in the air, we don't have to have all this mess on the ground and wires that are susceptible to things like floods and weather conditions. If we just put satellites up in the air, we don't have to worry about winter, we don't have to worry about summer, and we can service many, many more people, and we can service them more globally. So that becomes a disruptor. So what you want to do is say, if you were that person, probably like an Elon Musk type person, you sit there and say, I want to put, my mission is to put satellites in the air for telecommunications and have enough that everybody will have global access. That could be a mission statement. And then your vision is, where do you see the company in 3 to 5 years from now? So the initial is, I want to put satellites in the air to make telecommunications easier, smoother, faster speed, less disruptive. And your vision would be that in 3 to 5 years from now, I see the entire world working their telecommunications, whether it's cell phones or computers, I see them all working through satellites and no need for poles and towers and wires anymore. So that could be your vision, a world with no poles, no towers. So that's the difference between a mission and a vision statement, and that could be included in your executive summary. But basically, when someone's reading your executive summary, they want to get in one page, tell them, explain your business, tell them your idea, tell them what your target market is, and most importantly, tell them why it will succeed. Right away, usually a person who's looking at this you'll know pretty quickly whether they're interested or not, and whether they want to continue reading your business plan and get to stage number two. Stage number two is the actual business description, which more again falls in lines with the mission and the vision statement. So in the business description, what you want to do is you want to express what problem do you want to solve? And I've already alluded to that, right? The problem I want to solve is I want to get rid of all the towers and all the wires and which are affected by weather and other factors. I want to solve that problem and remove all these wires so that I can have smooth and easy, communication through satellites. And then the next thing in number two in your business description is you really want to really outline who are your customers. In this particular case, it could be cell phone users, it could be telecommunication companies, it could be computer-to-computer conversations, it could be internet interactions. So you've got to explain who your customers are. Is it the whole world? Is it a specific group of people? Is it people who have to have a certain level of wealth? Those kinds of things, you have to really talk about who your customers are. So again, what problem do you want to solve and who are your customers? That's the second most important thing under the category of business description. The third thing is a bit of a market analysis. So this is an analysis where you research about your competitors, you research about the customer demand and also the industry trends. We were talking a little bit earlier about the difference just between business now in the United States and Canada. So this would be part of your market analysis, right? So you really want to outline and give a clear understanding that you know who your competitors are. You all have established what the customer demand will be, and you have a very good handle on what the current industry trends are, and that's why your product or service is going to succeed. Number four is you want to talk about your organization and management. Very important. Who runs the business and what skills do they bring? So typically, obviously, anybody who's going to invest in your company or be a partner with you or anyone who's going to do business, even a customer wants to know who's running the business and what skills do they have. So it's very important as best you can to outline this. Often you'll see on websites, it says about the company or it says about the founders, and it tells you in there exactly, who the founding members are, what their backgrounds are, what their skill sets are, and who is in fact running the business. So that's number four under organization and management. Number five is your products and services. What you sell and how it's different from the others. We talked earlier about differentiating or disrupting, right? So you want to be able to explain exactly what your product is, what it is you sell, and what makes it different and what will make it successful. Number six is how you're going to deal with marketing and sales strategy. How will you attract customers and keep customers? Another way of saying that is recruitment and retention. How are you going to recruit customers and how are you going to retain them? Very important, because it's one thing to be able to get customers, it's another thing to keep them. And usually, and we've talked about this earlier, and actually in the other series that I do with Joel, we talk a lot about this, is the word stickiness. What is it about your company that's going to provide some stickiness? How are you going to keep those people? So one of the ways is a subscription program. People generally in like Amazon, you have Amazon Prime. People get into Prime, and Prime used to include just quick delivery. Then they added Prime Video and a whole bunch of other services, just like Apple has their Apple One, where they started off just with giving you internet storage or cloud storage. And then it went on to fitness app, and then it went on to the music app, right? So you keep building on, firstly, you get people to subscribe to something, and then you keep adding services onto that as much as you can. So it makes it very, very difficult for them to actually stop working with you and switch somewhere else. So your job is to do that in an ethical and honest way, not in a way where you hide your cancellation, but effectively you make it very easy to cancel. You're very transparent about cancellation, but the reason you can be transparent is because you're so certain of the product and services that you provide that people will stay. Other things can be things like, as an example, where you maintain a lot of the database of the people that you're working with. Like if you were a CRM company, you might have all the sales leads in that CRM. So you create your CRM in such a way that if they were to switch from your CRM to somebody else's CRM, that it would become a very difficult thing to do. So these are the kinds of things, even going back to the example of Apple and Amazon, they also have cloud services, right? So it's not exactly easy if you have a whole bunch of stuff, in the trigabytes, right, with these companies, and you have to transfer all of that over. First of all, just the mere size of the data to transfer it to another cloud service is very difficult. And then that cloud service may not exactly necessarily operate in the same way and have the same services. So if your services and products are really, really good, it's very, very difficult for people to transfer. So the word stickiness here is really, really important. Is, how will you attract your customers? How will you keep them? Retention and recruitment. The number seven thing we'll talk about, or what you want to talk about in your business plan, is your financial plan. Very important. What are your startup costs? What's your revenue forecast? What's your break-even point? People want to know this if they're going to get engaged with you in any kind of way. And one of the things that most people don't do in their financial statements, it's a really important thing to do. When I mentor small companies or I mentor, early stage companies, one of the things I insist upon right away is a monthly statement, a monthly accounting statement from them. And in that statement, at the very minimum, I want this year's sales, this month's sales. I want a comparison to last month's sale. I want another column that says the word budget. In other words, what we want a budget for the year. We want to set goals, right? So what's my projected budget for the year? So as an example, if I'm just starting out as a company, I might get a report where it says, okay, well, we did $30,000 in sales this month. Last year, we did $25,000 in sales, and our projected budget for this month, our goals were $31,000. So we fell $1,000 short, but we're still $5,000 better than last year. And even those three things are absolutely critical, and it's critical to get those, I think, on a monthly basis. So you got to have a financial plan in place, which outlines your startup costs, your revenue forecast, and your break-even point that go into your business plan as number seven. And then from that, you have to, once your business plan is in place, you start your business getting monthly statement, whether it's the use of QuickBooks that will easily provide that for you, or a competing company like QuickBooks, you need to have that so that it can support your financial plan as well. Number eight is you want to have an appendix at the very end. And it's just supporting documents, things like licenses, permits. We talked about this earlier, resumes, contracts, any supporting type document that you can have that's going to be impressive, or certainly even if it's not impressive, it's going to be important because people are going to say to you, this is a great business plan, but what do your contracts look like? Give me the resumes of the people in your company. By the way, if you want to set up satellites, you're going to have permits to be able to launch those satellites, from Florida or somewhere else. So do you have your permits in place? Do you have licenses to do what if you're going to open a restaurant and you're going to have a bar, you have to have a liquor license. So do you have a liquor license, and can you provide that in your appendix? So it's all the supporting documents that go into it to show somebody looking at your business plan exactly that you've thought this through, and you have all the necessary supporting documents that you're going to need in terms of contracts, licenses, permits, resumes, that type of thing. So I would say this, just as a tip for very small businesses. Very small businesses, you want to have a very lean business plan. What I mean by that is it's a one-pager with simple bullet points can sometimes be enough to start. So if you're a small business, you don't have to necessarily go through everything I've talked about, but you should look at all of those things and at least try to have them, even if you're doing a one-pager or two-pager. It doesn't necessarily have to be 20 pages long, especially if you're a small business. You can do this in 1 or 2 pages and do it in bullet points, but the point is that if you cover off all 8 things that I've talked about, even if you just do it in bullet points, right, and make it 1 or 2 pages, that still may be enough to at least get you started and have somebody look at your company. Okay. So let's move on a little bit into a third section tonight, which is called setting a business strategy. So a business plan shows you what you're going to do, but a strategy explains how you'll compete and grow. So they're quite different. One is sort of a roadmap, if you will. It's kind of the destination and the goals you're going to achieve along the way. But the strategy is more or less is it's great to say we're going to do 500 miles on the first leg of our trip, but how exactly will you do those 500 miles? What roads are you going to take? What precautions are you going to take in terms of weather? Do you need snow tires? That kind of thing. So let's talk a little bit about this. And firstly, you need to define your value proposition. Again, going back to this, what makes your business unique? Are you going to have, if you're going to open a Chinese food restaurant, right? Are you going to have authentic Chinese food that are delivered to small Canadian towns where there's no Chinese restaurants right now? So that could be a differentiator, right? You're going to provide real, authentic Chinese food of some kind, and you're going to deliver it to small towns that currently don't have Chinese restaurants. So already you're sitting and saying, this could be a brand new market. Somebody's looking at this. They could say this is going to be a brand new market. First of all, it's being delivered to small towns who haven't experienced maybe that type of food before. And the fact that it's authentic could lead to a very successful venture. So that's just kind of an example. You also have to choose your target market. Again, just reiterating what we talked about earlier, who are your customers? Is it students, families, professionals, seniors? So you have to have a clear definition to understand who your customers are. You also, again, going back to it, have to understand your competition. Who else is selling a similar product, a similar idea? And then, like I said to you earlier, how can you do it better, faster, cheaper? That's really the key three things. It's always the key three things. And the funny thing, I'll take a little bit of a sidetrack here because businesses I've noticed tend to go in these leaps and these plateaus. I always watch businesses where when they first start off, everyone's working 24 hours a day. They start achieving some success, and all of a sudden, it starts to get a little bit easier. And then the companies tend to plateau. They tend to think, oh, well, we've got to this point. We can just ride the wave now. We can just plateau, right? Until somebody else comes along and finds a way to do it better, faster, cheaper. And then all of a sudden, it's a wake-up call to that person saying, oh my goodness, they've got a better, faster, cheaper way of doing this. Then you go back to work again, and then until you get to the next kind of, a hill that you climb, and then you get to another plateau. So I always see the businesses going in this sort of steep curve upward, plateau, another steep curve upward, then plateau. And it seems that it's always when the competition comes up with better, cheaper, faster, that it seems to wake you up. And my suggestion to you, recommendation, is that you really try to stay on a steady curve all of the time. Never, never assume that you've owned the market, that you can just glide at this point. And all you have to do is ask Kodak or BlackBerry or any of these companies how well that worked for them, right? So you never want to sit back and get comfortable. You always want to be just a little bit uncomfortable and always be looking to do things better, faster, cheaper. That's what keeps your companies alive and doing well. And the next item is you've got to decide on a growth path. So will you, as an example, expand locations? Like that's one way of doing it, bricks and mortar. Will you expand online sales? Will you go into partnerships? Will you do some acquisitions or mergers? I did all of them. So I can tell you they all work differently. And so there's geographic expansion, there's vertical expansion, which means going into other verticals. There's product expansion, creating new products and services. You have to be careful about that because I'm a firm believer that you really should focus on your one core product or service and just be the very best at it. Just like Apple and their iPhone, Facebook is Facebook, right? They're very focused on that. And I find when you start to look at too many products and services, you tend not to be very good at any of them, and it tends to create a downfall in your company. So really pick, one or two products, but strategically, if there is a second product and you think you can be really, really good at it, you shouldn't also just, stay with one product. So there's a hybrid between doing too many products, doing too few products, but I really believe that really focusing on one or two products or services, just being the best at it. And then once you are, maybe you create a second product or service. So that's a way of going. Verticals are another way. If you're selling, let's say into the education system, and you find, gee, we're really doing really here, you might find, hey, this same product or service will work well with government. It might work well with corporations. So you can look at different verticals as well and take the same product and try and find where the application is for your product in different verticals. And as I mentioned earlier, there's also geographic growth as well. So those are just some of the ways that you can expand your growth pattern. And the other thing is, while I'm on this subject, is you always have to be cognizant of how quickly and how well you'll be able to scale your business. Because sometimes, you make that big sale and you end up causing yourself a lot of harm because then you can't deliver your product. So you always got to be thinking about scalability as well when you do this. So it's always good if you're going into business, you're picking a product or service, to think about right from the start saying, hey, if I do become overwhelmingly successful with this product or service, it's an easy path to scale. Can I very quickly start doing large volume? So you always want to pick a product or service that potentially allows you to scale well. Again, I'm going to go off script a little bit tonight just to add this little nugget to you. I had this conversation earlier today with one of our participants is on here, tonight. And that is, my entire business career, I was always taught that find something you love, find something you're passionate about, and turn it into a business. And for 30, 40 years, I believed this until I proved myself wrong. And what I'm actually going to tell you from an advisory perspective, it's far more important to go into a business that you're very good at doing. The passion will come later. You may not love it at the beginning, but as you get into it and as the challenges come up and the more you grow that product or services, the more passionate you're going to become about it. So what I've learned is that business is actually the reverse of what I've always believed it to be. Find the passion and do really well at it? No. And the example I gave earlier today was, you could be really passionate about hockey, but be a really terrible hockey player. That's not going to not going to do very well for you in the future, right? But if you are a really, really great hockey player, you didn't necessarily love the sport, but you're this fantastic hockey player, you'd be better off to become that fantastic hockey player, go into the sport and find out then when all of the contracts start coming to you, you start playing against other teams, your salary becomes this huge salary, you can very quickly learn how to become passionate about something you're very good in. So I would advise young people, or people, and I should say young people, when I say young, I just mean young in terms of entering into business. You can be 70 and enter into business. You're still a young business person, right? So I would say to people that are young and going in, young business people, is find something you're really good at. Just find something you're really, really good at. It's a lot easier to be successful at something you're good at. And the passion, if you're not passionate already about it, the passion will follow. So let's talk now a little bit about tools for planning and strategy. What you should do is look at building model canvas. So again, I would create sort of a one-page chart that shows your customers, your value, your costs, and your revenue streams. And one of the ways you can do that is through what we used to use it, or used to call it. It goes back to actually to England years and years ago. They developed something called mind mapping, where you develop little bubbles. And it really works well for this type of planning, where at the center of the page, you just draw a circle and you put satellite communication. And then what you start to do is you create all these these stems, if you will, off the main bubble and create other bubbles, right? And you put, satellite in the middle, and then, oh, well, what will I need to do that? Well, I'm going to need to be able to launch them from Earth. I'm going to have to finance this. And you create all these little stems from it. And then, from those stems, you create a bubble. And then from that bubble, you can create more stems, right? So what it does, it allows you to look at this picture. And it's a singular picture, usually on one page, that gives you an idea that when you look at it, kind of puts the whole picture together of what you need to do in terms of modeling your business and becoming successful. So you can always pull that mind map up, and you can always erase and change things as you move along. And you could do that very quickly, but it really gives you a very quick analysis all the time of where you are in your business, what you need to do, and where you need to focus your time and effort, and also allows you not to forget about the things that you need to do. All in one page, all in one mind map. So if you're not familiar with mind maps, just Google it, or I guess today, Chat GPT it, and look up mind mapping. It's a really, really good thing when you're starting a business to start with a mind map, and it's a one pager, right? And again, what I've talked about in the past, talked about this morning, is doing a SWOT analysis. And SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. You really need to sit down and really need to write out what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, what the opportunities are, and what the threats are. And you really need to do that analysis and look very, very closely at it and figure out from that is, how you're going to differentiate, how you're going to disrupt based on your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and threats. So make sure you do that analysis whenever you're starting a business. Really important as part of your business plan to do a SWOT analysis. The other thing that you want to look at is something called SMART goals, S-M-A-R-T goals. And what that stands for is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, right? So an example of that is you might know the Chinese food industry, right? But the weakness might be is that you have limited English skills, right? The opportunity, though, would be growing your interest in Asian cuisine, right? And the threat might be that there's many, many established competitors in big cities. That's just a quick analysis of like what a SWOT analysis would be. And this is fairly basic. Obviously, yours would be much more complex and pertain to your particular product or services. So let's move on and talk a little bit about about the resources available in Canada for business planning. So there is something called the Canada Business Network. And again, you can look this up. It provides free guides on writing a business plan. There's also something called Small Business Enterprise Centers in Ontario. They have free workshops and mentorships. There's something called Futurepreneur Canada, not entrepreneur, but Futurepreneur Canada. And they have business plan tools and loans for new entrepreneurs as well. And then, of course, I think most of you are familiar with BDC, which stands for Business Development Bank of Canada. And they have a lot of templates and advisory service, many of which are free, some aren't, but they often are a help to small business. So there are also, just to give you kind of a little bit of a tip, there are many, many immigrant entrepreneur support programs that will review your business plan for free. So again, I can't list them all out, first of all, from a time perspective, and also the list is fairly lengthy. But if you just, again, go online, use some AI, whatever agent you use, whether it's Grok or Chat, just go online and look up immigrant entrepreneur support programs, and it will give you quite a lengthy list of places that will actually review your business plan, and they will do it for free. Okay. So let me just move on now to, I just want to see if I've covered off everything I wanted to. Pretty much. Yeah, so I think I'm just going to close off by saying, give you kind of what I would call the key takeaways from today's module, that a business plan is your roadmap. A strategy is your compass. So I'll just repeat that again. So the business plan is your roadmap. In other words, that's your destination, right? You know where you're going. but your strategy is your compass. That's the thing that keeps you online. That's the thing that keeps you on the right road and allows you not to make a wrong turn when you're planning to go to destination. So business plan and strategy are quite different, but they are completely integral to each other, and it's very important that you have both. Second point is focus on solving a problem. Okay? Focus on solving a problem. Define your customer and make sure that it really stands out to you. It stands out that it would be a differentiator. It would be something that might disrupt an industry. Thirdly, I mean, you're in Canada now, use the free Canadian resources for researching, for research plan, and also to refine your ideas. So there's a number of Canadian resources out there. It won't take much of a search to find them. Use them, and many of them, again, are free, and they'll help you in terms of researching, they'll help you in terms of planning, and they will help you to refine your idea if it needs to be. If you speak to enough people and keep refining your business plan, eventually you'll come up with the right one. And not only will it lead to success, but it will help you attract other people to engage into your business, whether it's for financing or partnership or even to work for you, right? And lastly, I think one of the best pieces of advice I could give you is start simple. Okay. Start simple. Your plan can grow with the business. So it can be very overwhelming when you go into a business and you're trying to achieve too much and plan too much. Start with a simple plan. Maybe it's a page or two and just stick to it. Because what you're going to find is as you progress in your business, business is all about pivoting all of the time. You go down a road and you say, oh, it's the wrong, it's kind of the wrong direction. And you find, we can pivot. We may have to take a detour, just like going to a destination. You start out one day and you have the perfect plan, and all of a sudden you realize, oh, guess what? The bridge is out. 250 miles, the bridge is out. So now you got to figure out how to detour around and get to the same destination. I'm not saying that necessarily the destination changes, but sometimes the road to get there might. So you really have to keep it very simple, make your plan, and be comfortable with the fact that you will have to pivot along the way to get to the destination that you want to. So with that, I'm going to close this evening by wishing you all well in creating a business plan. If you need any help with that, I have, some time. Usually, if you want to schedule 20 or 30 minutes, I can usually give that to you on a monthly or a 6-week basis. I'm happy to do that. But creating your business plan is a really, really important thing to do, and it forces you to make a lot of decisions and at least start out. But again, keep it simple in the beginning. So you start rolling down and then expand it. Like as the business expand, your business plan can expand. So good luck. And now I'm open for any questions that you guys have or discussion you have for tonight. So I'll open up to the audience. We have silence.
Let me ask you a question, Martin.
Yes.
I just want to break the ice first. So how long a business plan usually good for? How many time, in other words, how often you need to revisit your plan? Yeah.
Frank, it's a great question. A lot of that depends on how smooth the road is when you're moving along. Sometimes you make a business plan and it just works really, really well all the way through, and things are expanding and growing fast, and you're pivoting and you're moving up the road. But I would recommend, I really, really think that at a minimum, it's every 2 to 3 months at a minimum. But I always like to say it's worth, especially if it's in a mind map. I always say it's always worth looking at once a month. Maybe you just make it, and you see, if you make it habitual, if you make it like on the first of every month or the last day of the month, and you just say, you know what, as every month starts, I'm just going to take a quick look at that business plan just to make sure I'm staying on course, see what's right, see what's wrong, see what I need to change. So my preferences with early stage companies is take a look at it once a month. Just take a quick look at it. You may only have to spend 30 seconds looking at it and say, hey, you know what? I'm right on course. But you may have to spend an extra few minutes on it, adjusting it based on what's happening in the environment. So recommended would be once a month. I would say at a minimum, every 2 to 3 months, you really should be reviewing it just to make sure you're staying on course.
And do you have the business plan mainly for yourself? I mean, the company within.
So,
So
sorry.
So you have your internal management or management of the company. Then there's a version which is made public to the customer or investors.
Right.
So you do have a very different variation or
I think the business plan is the plan. I don't know necessarily that it needs to be shared with anybody but the stakeholders, to be quite candid with you. I
yeah.
think what you project out to the public is really your marketing materials and your collateral material. And that's going to be based on your business plan. But I think that material is going to be different from your business plan. Having said that, um, given transparency today, there's absolutely nothing wrong with actually having your business plan a little more public. But in answer to your question, Frank, I don't think there's a business plan that's sort of the public business plan and a business plan that's your private business plan. I think those days, back decades ago, were more prevalent, where you kind of had an internal plan saying this is what we planned, but this is what we're going to tell the people. And it was,
Yeah.
one thing was different from the other.
Yeah.
Those days have kind of dissipated a lot because people are demanding transparency now. And
Okay.
it's also a question, Frank, of integrity, right? Because
Yeah.
you don't want to tell people, hey, our goal is to do satellites, when really our goal is to do satellites for the purposes of telecommunications,
Yeah.
when really you want to do satellites to weaponize yourself and blow up the world, right? So that would
Yeah.
be an example where there's a very different public business plan versus a private business plan. I'm being pretty extreme here, but that would be an example. Hey, we want to build nuclear weapons for energy, when you really want to build nuclear weapons to blow up another country. So that would be a difference between an internal and external. But I think today in business, transparency is demanded by the consuming people out there. And I think it's important that there be consistency, that if you're going to have a plan to do something, it should effectively be the same plan that you put out there to people. Not necessarily exactly the same, but one is more in the form of collateral and marketing materials, but it
Yeah.
should reflect at least the business plan that you have.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah,
new.
there you are.
I'm new to your program, and also a new member of East West Learning Connection. So
Welcome.
it's very yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it's very beneficial for me to. Although I had a business degree, but I honestly speaking, I haven't done a formal business plan, and I do have a small business which is was founded 10 years ago. It's online learning platform. So we teach Chinese kids and the kids in North America, like mostly Chinese heritage family, for them to learn English, reading, writing, enhance their cultural understanding. And we also teach history, blah, blah, blah. So we're very small. We have 8 teachers, about dozens of students, but they follow us long. Some of them already 10 years have been with us. So for
Right.
me, it's at this moment, I almost feel like I need a new business plan. Not new news, look, review what I would practice now, but think about the way to pivot and grow. I don't know how explosively, but I think it's time for me to look at it. But at the same time, I feel like um, we need to do a lot of research because we have an idea of how important and how urgent the families need this kind
Right.
of mentorship teaching.
Right.
But then the nuance between how to reach them, I think mostly for me is to expand my fan base, the families, right?
Right.
Participants. It's like a lot of small businesses. So I feel like um, just me and my teachers, my two teammates, we sit here to draft a 1 page, 2 page small business plan, I feel like we probably need hours and hours and maybe go down to talk to different stakeholders, maybe principals or families to understand the market and the audience and the changing world a little bit better
Right.
in order to write it effectively.
Correct.
So, so it's just my thought, but it's not easy. It's
No, it's not easy, but I'll give you a couple of ideas that
Mhm.
might make it a lot less painful than what you're going to go through. Because I know exactly where you're at right now. I was there. I was there a few decades ago. I was right where you are.
Uh-huh.
And I'm going to give you some ideas that might help you get out. And it's not necessarily like you're in a case where you're already in a 10-year, even though it's a smaller business, you're still 10
Yeah.
years into it. So
Mhm.
well, your business plan is very important.
Mhm.
I would still suggest to you that you sit down and do a mind map of your business and
Yeah.
use these little circles with the stems, because what
Mhm.
that will help you do is when you get into some of those circles, not necessarily the center circle, but when you get into the outer circles, you're going to look at what we call the addressable market. Addressable
Mhm.
market. And
Mhm.
addressable market basically is what is the potential addressable market for your
Mhm.
service that you provide? It's an
Mhm.
online learning management system
Yeah.
that's teaching English, very
Mhm.
importantly, to Chinese students, as I understand
Mhm.
it. And so, by the way, that's the business I was in. I was in learning management system business, so
Oh,
I
great.
know it pretty well. I actually deal
Mhm.
with the number one and two top actually the top three learning management systems currently right now. So
Oh.
there's a bunch of things that you can do.
Mhm.
Really, and maybe at some point you want to call me offline because I don't want to take the
Okay.
time of everybody. But let me give you some thoughts, and then we may be able to talk a little bit more about this. But first and foremost, is you
Mhm.
need to sit down with your other stakeholders and
Mhm.
talk about the addressable market. And
Yeah.
your addressable market could be 1 million people. It could be 1 billion people. Who knows,
Mhm.
right? Because
Mhm.
if you looked and say, well, how many people
Mhm.
that speak Chinese right now need to speak English, whatever, that probably is in the millions, I would imagine. So
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
addressable market, right,
Mhm.
could
Mhm.
be and should be, I would think, in the millions. So then the next question is, well, we only have, 50 or 100 students. We don't have 1 million. How do we
Mhm.
get them? So one of
Mhm.
the ways you want to do that, and again, it's interesting, I kind of had, again, the same conversation with one of the participants tonight. I had the same conversation this morning. One of the I'm going to call well, it's simple on one hand, there's some complexity to it, but this is why we
Mhm.
might have to talk offline, is what you
Mhm.
really want to find for yourself right now is probably use technology, and you want to
Yeah.
use an AI tool. And
Mhm.
typically right now, especially given today,
Mhm.
we're going to go through 3 levels of AI. We're
Mhm.
currently in AI. The next level
Mhm.
is something called AGI, followed by
Mhm.
ASI. So
Mhm.
AGI is artificial general
General.
intelligence.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
that's when, for the purpose of everybody on this call, we're at AI right now, which is less than
Mhm.
human. AGI is equal to human, and
Mhm.
ASI, which is super
Super.
intelligence, is greater than human. So
Mhm.
we're going to move much faster than we thought we are. And by
Mhm.
probably, I'm guessing within the next 4 to 5 years, we'll be at ASI. Forget AGI, we're already almost there.
Mhm.
So what you want to do is use AI tools. And what do I mean by that? You
Mhm.
want to do basically 4 things. Okay. Number
Mhm.
one, you want to use an AI tool that can scrape the internet to give you a
Mhm.
database. So what you
Yeah.
want to do is develop a very tight profile of
Mhm.
who it is you're looking for to approach.
Mhm.
You don't want to
Mhm.
speak to all Chinese people. You want
Yeah.
to speak to all Chinese people who have children, who want to
Mhm.
speak English. So you're going to create that list. That you have to create yourself, but you're going to create your target market, and you're going to say,
Mhm.
okay, we're going to list out exactly who we're looking for. We're going to spend some time. Once we do that,
Mhm.
we're going to use a tool, scrape the
Mhm.
internet, and create a database. Okay, that's step
Mhm.
one. Step
Mhm.
two is to
Mhm.
scrape the scrape. What do I mean by
Mhm.
that? It's called
Mhm.
it's a super scrape of the database that you have, which what it does, it goes out to each individual person and looks up their full LinkedIn site. And if they have a website, goes through their entire website. And what it does is give you enough information, or gives the AI enough information, that it's a completely personalized approach to that person. So as an example, if you found out that that person got a special award in high school, that person excels in a certain subject, that person likes a certain sport, you're going to know everything about that person. So that the next step, step 3, is called the campaign. And what you're going to do then is create a series of emails that go out on an automated basis. And that campaign is going to go out to that person and says, hey, dear John, right? Hey, congratulations. I just noticed that you you've just accelerated. You stood top in your class here, that you're coming to Canada, that you're wanting to learn about English, that you have an interest in learning English. And hey, guess what? We teach English, right? So you're going to make it a very personalized campaign out to John, so that when they receive that email, it's not just a typical marketing email, it's a very personalized email. The fourth and final step is you're going to want to teach your AI platform all of the information about your school, about your learning management system, all of the frequently asked questions, who the owners are, how many courses you have, what the costs are, when your course starts, when it finishes, all that information. And what's going to happen is your AI platform is going to become more knowledgeable than you or any of your staff about your own company, such that when somebody does sit there and John gets that email and says, wow, this is really cool, John's going to write to you right away and say, hey, I want to know how much is this course? And without you having to reply to it, your AI platform will automatically reply, because it has that information instantaneously, and it's going to go back and forth. And then what it's going to eventually do is it's going to evolve up to the point where you're going to sit there and say, okay, time for a human being to click in here. And you're going to get, instead of a cold lead, you're going to get a very warm lead, and you'll just have to close it, and you'll close it like that. And what you need to be doing is having enough emails go out on a very regular basis. Maybe it's 50, 60, 70. Usually you can send out up to about 75 to 100 a day without being sort of flagged as being a bad email person. So you can usually send about 70 or 80, and you just have 70 of these things going on every single day. And that's what's called outbound marketing. And from that, you'll have inbound, but your inbound should probably be so significant that you won't have to do anything else. And you'll have enough leads coming in that you will grow your business quite significantly and quite quickly over a short period of time. And you just keep that thing going, that engine going, and it keeps bringing you more inbound, more inbound, more inbound. So that's the kind of AI platform you need. There's a variety of them out there. Some of them are off the shelf stuff, like God, the names escape me. It's a .ai company. It's called having a seniors moment, but I'll think of it. If you reach out to me.
Yeah, I will.
Bottom line is, so that's the kind of technology you want to use to grow your business. But the key thing there is not only to train the AI platform, but for the thing where you need to invest your time in right now, more than even a business plan, is identifying the profile of the person you're looking for, as specific as you possibly can. Because if you don't do that, you're going to end up with 200,000 names in your database. You're going to pay for that. And you're going to start sending stuff out and get very disappointed because the responses are going to be horrible. Because you're going to send something out and the person's 96 years old and they're looking to learn Spanish, and you send something out because your profile is wrong. So if you get your profile right at the beginning, very targeted, you're going to get a database that's very specific and very hot. And then you use the rest of it to go through. So that's kind of the nugget for you of the day.
Okay.
Use this tool. The other thing, there's other things that you can and should be doing. And I'll just give you one more. And again, this is becoming more of a one-to-one conversation. know there's a group on here. But the other thing that you should be doing is potentially looking at not necessarily mergers and acquisitions, but looking at the partner aspect of other learning management systems. One thing about learning management systems is everyone says, oh, I have an online learning system. What does that mean? Are you a SaaS product where you sell your platform and everybody just uses it as a SaaS product like Salesforce? Or are you actually a content provider where actually you don't really care about the learning management system so much? It's really the content that's on. So it's when people say online learning, there are really 3 or 4 different types of online.
Yeah.
So if as an example, you're providing content, you're providing learning, you're providing courses. The question might be you might actually be looking to your competition that's out there, and not necessarily direct competition, but indirect competition. Maybe there are other LMSs out there where they have already, let's say, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of followers that are looking for your type of courses, where you could make a partnership deal with them. And in other words, you could take your courses, put it on their platform, and maybe do a 50-50 split. This would be to a market that you have no idea exists, people that are not coming to yours. So it's not like you're losing anything giving it away, but you could go out to another platform and say, hey, I'm interested in loading my courses up there. And there's several of these. I'm interested in loading my courses up there, and we'll do a split. Sometimes, you have to negotiate, right? But sometimes it's 80-20, sometimes 50-50. But all of a sudden, if you put your courses out there, and let's say they're really good courses, all of a sudden they start selling 3, 4, 5, 10 of these a day. And all of a sudden you've got $100,000, $500,000 coming in every day from these people just on a 50-50 split. So partnering with other similar type LMS systems would also be an avenue. Anyways, I'll stop there because there's a lot more.
Thank you so much, Martin. I will definitely reach out to schedule a meeting with you. Thank you.
No problem. All right. So any other questions, comments?
Hi, Martin. Thank you. Yeah. Also, so my business, I'm actually building a AI tool to help people who have a business idea to suss out different business models and create a business plan. So I'm in beta testing phase. I'm reaching out to my next steps and thinking about the next year and what's the you discussed mission and vision. I think that's very important. So because it's basically come back to who we need to reach out, and something like, should we take funds, and how much should we take, and how will this impact our decision making? Do we want to have control? How much control do we want to have over the company compared to like angel investors, all this kind of thing? So it's one thing I noticed is many competition or many kind of like fund, whether it's fund or whether it's kind of competition or people who invest in this kind of companies, the more and more they ask for a pitch. Oh, sometimes it's like 10-page maximum, like 10 PowerPoint page or even less. And what do you think about, like, how much time should we? Okay, so I guess my question is, do we need to go through a business plan to have a good pitch, or do we
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, or can be kind of like shortcut, or
okay, so I would answer it this way. I think, if you're looking at the stage that you're at, and we spoke before, but the stage that you're at, especially at the beginning stages, I think it really is important to do a business plan. And the reason why, it's not so much about the plan, it's more or less, it's going to help you with what you're going through right now. It's going to answer all these questions for you, because when you look at, what's things like, what's the addressable market, what makes you better, faster, cheaper, all the things we've talked about tonight, it really forces you to sit down and make a really concise plan. And it's really challenging. it may end up one page, but it may take you weeks, may take you months to do, because it really forces you to think through what it is you're doing. Now, I wouldn't spend years at this thing, but because the most important thing to do is to execute, right? Like that, we haven't talked about that tonight because it's a different module, but you've got to execute. It's more important to start, right, and get going, because once you get going, so much of what your business plan, it will start to tell you what you need to do. Like you'll go down a certain road and you realize, boy, that was a mistake. And I always say this: focus on your failures, right? Don't focus on your success. The successes come from your failures. So if you focus on doing 20 things wrong, you'll get one thing right. So don't even worry about your successes. They'll just come, every 10 or 20 failures you have, you'll have a success. Those will come automatically. So don't be focused so much on having success right away. Focus on the failures to get the success. But in answer to your question is, I think you need that one pager, especially if it's a mind map. I love mind maps, like especially for a business of starting out, is if you create that mind map, in essence, that mind map will create your slide deck. Because realistically, that's what comes out of a one-page sort of mind map, is that slide deck. And the best way to get to that slide deck is to create the business plan, in answer to your question. I wouldn't start with the slide deck and then think about doing a business plan afterwards. That's definitely doing things in a reverse decision. I would really start out with creating your plan first, and then from your plan, creating your slides. And that pitch deck, as we call it, right? So I would have the pitch deck definitely based on a business plan. And again, the business plan doesn't have to be 20 pages, especially when you're starting out. It can be as small as one page. It could just be bullet points, but it really has to express all the things that we talked about tonight. And if you answer all those questions and you can put it on one piece of page, one pager, quite frankly, you could probably take that mind map or that bullet point business plan, feed it through AI, and it will give you your 10 slides. I mean, that's really how good AI is today. And but what's important is those slides have to be really good, and they have to come out of something. If you take, and you heard the expression garbage in, garbage out, right? So if you kind of start at the end and work backwards, you're going to be in a situation where you create all these slides, but there's no plan to it, and it's really tough to use slides as a plan. Slides are a result of a plan, not something that makes a plan, right? So I would start with the business plan, and again, just even if it's just sketching a mind map together, a few hours, just trying to put together, feed that into AI, say, give me 10 slides, right? And that's the way I would approach it.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Other questions, comment, conversation? These have been, by the way,
Yes,
great questions.
Martin, there are several questions in chat room. Can you see that?
Let me go and pull that out. I can't because I haven't got it open. So let me take a look.
Oh,
okay.
Maybe Frank can help.
You want me to read it to you?
It's okay. I'll take a quick look. I told you the masterclass. I did put that link in there. I hope it works, by the way. Okay. Somebody else somebody else I think put another link in there. Okay. So from your experience, what are the mistakes or drawbacks when it comes to implementing the business plan? A great question. Great question. By the way, somebody else said, is it instantly.ai? It's not. It's when it comes to me, I'll send it through to Young, and she can send an email out with the link. It's not instantly. But by the way, there's a million .ais that are competitive in this, and it's on the tip of my tongue. It won't come out of the mouth. That's all. But anyways, let me answer this question: is what are the mistakes or drawbacks when it comes to implementing a business plan? I would say that the one that stands out to me most is that if you implement a business plan, there's two schools of thought. One school of thought is very stringent. It means you stick to that business plan no matter what. Some people have been successful with that psychology and that strategy. Personally, what I would like to say is that I think the biggest mistake you can be is being too rigid with your business plan. I think the business plan, in my mind, is what I would call a moving target. I think it changes and I think it evolves. So I think the biggest mistake you can make is starting out with a business plan and being so rigid that you're not flexible and won't make the changes. Again, it's just like taking that 2,500 mile or that 1,500 mile trip, right? Is you start out, you say, I'm taking these roads no matter what, right? And you run into all these detours and roads that end and dead ends and things like that because you made some mistakes along the way. And the idea is if you're a little bit flexible and you say, hey, you know what? If I run into some trouble, I'll figure out a way around the trouble, right? So it's the same thing, I think, with a business plan. I would suggest to you that the biggest mistake you can make is not being willing to be flexible and not being willing to, as I use the word many times, pivot. I think you need in a business plan to know when you're going down a road that it's not quite working out the way you thought. And this is part of execution. So I say execute early, execute right away, get going. Because once you get going, you'll find out, hey, you know what? This road is leading to a dead end. I need to get around this some other way. And you quickly can pivot. And if you're flexible in your business plan, that's why I say visit it once a month, visit it every week, right? It only takes a second to pull up your mind map, take a look at it, say, yeah, look, boom, bubble, 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 1 minute. It sounds good. And then if you keep changing and flowing with that, so flexibility and pivoting, not doing those two things, in my opinion, are probably the worst thing about a business plan. And it's especially endemic in large corporations where they have certain plans and there's rigidity to it and it's do it my way or take the highway. And they end up failing because they don't have that flexibility built into it. So I think that would be the biggest mistake. Let me see what else is in here. Which AI platform to be the study and generate tailor-made message? Okay, which AI platform? So that's a very interesting question. So I currently am working with a very, very small company that has the platform I just explained. The problem is right now that this individual is so busy with between the work he gets from me and others that this young fella is working 24 hours a day and can't take on new clients right now. So I'm trying to help him expand his universe a little bit so that he can scale up a little bit and perhaps have more availability. So that's one of the problems. The AI platform, or one of the AI platforms, is the one I'm having trouble remembering. Oh, it's Apollo. Okay, it's called Apollo.ai. There, now I remembered it. Okay, and Apollo is just it has components of what I've talked about, but it doesn't have everything. Apollo is I call it a 6 out of a 10 or a 7 out of a 10, as opposed to what I'm working with, which is an 11 out of a 10, right? So if this individual, this young fella, can scale up, it definitely would be the platform I would use. And right now, just to give you some idea, he's currently working with what's called 4 agents. Agents are what make up your platform. Agents do different things within an AI platform. So he's currently working with 4 agents, and now we're adding at least another somewhere between 2 to 4 on top of that. We should have 7 to 8 agents done, probably within the next 3 or 4 months or less. And it will probably be one of the most powerful AI tools out there in terms of marketing that you can get. The question will be is whether he'll be able to grow and scale fast enough to be able to accept new clients. So you can stay in touch with me. I'll let you know if he's able to. That's number one. Number two, if you want just sort of a generic off the shelf, it's kind of like the Microsoft of AI marketing right now, which means it's a good product. It's solid. It does what it does. But is it like that super app that does way more than Microsoft? No, it's not. So it's Apollo.ai. I think I've got that correct. All right, so that's the name of the platform. And again, what you can look up is look up Apollo.ai and then go to any one of the AI agents and just type in who are Apollo.ai's competition. And it will give you a list of another 20 of them. And then you can go and experiment. Just by the way, with any of these companies, you can ask for a demo, and they typically will provide a 20-minute demo to you. They'll make an appointment with you and get online with you. Just tell them your company name. So go and take a test drive with 5 or 6 of these companies and see what works best for you. So Apollo.ai is a place to start. Go and find out who their competition is through AI, and then go to those platforms and figure out what's best for you. So then there's what AI platform is best to study and generate tailored. Well, okay, that's the same one. What sets apart regular?
How to spell the Apollo? APPOLO.ai.
APOLLO, Apollo, APOLLI. Sorry, Apollo.
Okay.
It's APOLLO. APOLLO.ai. Did that come up for you?
You mentioned that Microsoft have some this type tools or software applications. And what is it? Which one?
No, not that. Well, Microsoft does, but they have their built-in AI, but that's not what I would use. What I was trying to explain was that Apollo.ai is kind of like a Microsoft, only in that it's a big company that provides. It's a good service. It is a good service. It's reasonably priced. It's a good service, but it's not the super AI platform that I would use. It's a generic, off the shelf, very easy to use, a little bit like LinkedIn Sales Navigator. It's the new LinkedIn Sales Navigator, if you will, right? It's the equivalent of Sales Navigator, which says, hey, it's a solid product. It's good. But is it the best out there? No. There's a lot of individual products out there and individuals doing this that have superior products and agents that they use within their AI platform to make it better. I'd say I got the best one right now, the best guy. But again, I can't give you availability to use this individual until they scale. Okay, so let me just.
Thank you.
No problem. What sets apart a regular marketing and salesperson versus an exceptional marketing and salesperson, and how is the kind of marketing done by an early stage founder different from an employee in a corporation, and who does marketing? Okay, these are great questions. I'll try and answer this fairly quickly. I don't know that there's necessarily a great difference between the marketing techniques today of someone small and large. I will say that if you went back a decade or two ago, significantly different, because you didn't have the tools today. The internet has become, and this is a whole design of the internet, the dot-com era back in 2000 was to make the world a level playing field. In other words, it was to allow the individual to operate like a large corporation. And in many ways, as you know, it's done that. AI is the next evolution. It's the next revolution, if you will, of that concept of equal playing field. So today, a one-person business could give the appearance of being a 3,000-person company. And AI is now allowing for that. So I would say to you that sure. I mean, one of the key things is budget, right? So if you're in a large company, you're probably still using the same AI tools, excepting you're using their enterprise system as opposed to somebody else who's using their personal system. It's just like when you go to ChatGPT. There's the free version, there's the pro version, and there's the I think what's the next one? Oh, no, sorry. There's the free version, the plus version, and the pro version. One is $0, one's $20 a month, and one's $200 a month. So the bigger company, guess what? They're going to pay the $200 a month. The medium to small is going to pay 20, and the real small company is going to pay 0. So what do you get? Different features and functionality. So I'd say to you, it's more a question that the bigger the buck you have, the more features and functionality that you can buy, therefore the better marketing you can do. But as far as the technique goes, as far as the actual concept of how you reach people, it's pretty much now, I would call it very close to a level playing field. I don't know if that answers that question fully. I'm just saying, so you asked what sets apart regular marketing and salespeople versus exceptional. I'm going to use one word to answer that question. One word and one word only. Execution. Execution, period, end. That's what makes great from ordinary. Because what I find is the ordinary sales and marketing people find it a chore. They find it a task. They do 1 or 2 or 3 efforts a day. The exceptional person does multiple efforts a day. They it's all this word execution. And I'll also give you one last analogy, okay? The difference between someone who executes and not. Every time somebody comes along with an idea, right? I can guarantee you that 1,000 people have that same idea. But how many of those 1,000 people do you think are going to execute on that idea? Lucky if there'll be 1 or 2. So what makes somebody exceptional? It's the person who comes up with the same idea as the same 100 or 1,000 other people, but they execute on it. They actually go ahead and forge forward and work their 12 hours, 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, trying to bring that dream to reality. Somebody who executes. That's the difference between exceptional and not. I think anybody who is going to invest time, energy, and effort at something, remember, the premise was pick something you do well at, not that you're passionate about. So I think if anybody picks something they're good at, and they are willing to spend the time at, and they're willing to execute on their plan, they're going to get success. Almost guaranteed they're going to get success. The only people who don't get success are people who don't execute. In fact, I can tell you another little story. There is one company, and I just can't remember their name, but it was something I came across about 6 months ago. And that particular CEO of that company has a rule in the company that when they sit down and they come up with a new idea, the rule is that idea, if everyone agrees that it's a good idea, it must be executed on within 24 hours. Rather than take 6 months and diagnose it and figure out how we're going to get it to market, figure out who's going to sell it, okay, and take 6 months. He figures that if we just execute right away, we're going to probably make more mistakes, but we're going to get to market, like we're going to have this product perfected in 3 or 4 weeks if we just go ahead and try it and do it. Because we'll fail a bunch of times, but we'll get there much faster than trying to sit down and analyze this thing to death. And then, we may go imperfect, but we're going to be 5 months too late. And the other company's already in there. So that's his rule. That's another example of execution.
For inquiries, please contact info@eawlc.org or visit our website at www.eawlc.org.